The 49ers are about to embark on a season where they're going to have a very thin margin for error, just like they did last year, just like it feels like they have a lot. And the reason they're going to have a lot of chances to win games is because their schedule is going to allow it. Even if they're less talented in some ways than last year, we'll see. Depends on the draft. That story's unwritten. They still have enough good players, and the quarterback's good enough, and their coach is definitely good enough, and they've upgraded defensive coordinator, and their schedule allows for them to be in a bunch of games. Just like they were last year when they ended up winning only 6. And so upgrading at backup quarterback, it's not going to matter like in 15 of the weeks, but it's going to matter in one or two of the weeks. And the 49ers have upgraded a quarterback. It just so happens they upgraded to kind of a juicy backup quarterback. Some of you probably heard this over the weekend. Michael Holley, the NFL writer, and Mike Florio talking about Mac Jones, and Holly's a Patriots, New England guy.
He is an impressive football mind when he's talking, but when he plays, it's not pretty. He just does things that are just head-scratching, and he will drive Kyle Shanahan crazy. He will make him crazy. So he's not going to beat out Brock Purdy. If he does beat out Brock Purdy, it's going to be for a game or two, and then Purdy will go right back in there and take the job back because he's just not capable of – I don't think he's capable of maintaining it at a starter's level. He's a cameo guy, but I don't think he's a starter anymore.
Which is most guys in the NFL. Most quarterbacks, I'd say half of the quarterbacks that start are cameo guys. They're not really starting quality quarterback. That's why the position's so hard. Like, if you, I don't know, I don't need a baseball analogy. If you went and looked at all the starting first basemen, my guess is a higher percentage of them are worthy of being starting first baseman, whatever. I don't know. Most starting quarterbacks, or half of starting quarterbacks, maybe a third, let's be kind, are not really starting quarterbacks. They just happen to be starting at quarterback. And the Niners have a starting quarterback. Now, keep in mind, they have a starting quarterback because their coach is open-minded. He will let anything happen. He can hate a guy. If that guy proves to him he should be the starting quarterback, he'll make him the starting quarterback. Just don't forget, like, if you see a relationship between two people and one of them was previously married, and the reason they're married now is because they cheated on their spouse with their new spouse. Their new spouse doesn't get to be as mad when they cheat again. Now, it's not cheating to have a starting quarterback and then change your mind, but just remember how we got here. They had the 262nd, the last pick of the draft was the quarterback. On that roster, they had a veteran they'd paid. They had another veteran. They had a rookie they traded, or not a rookie, but they had Trey Lance who they traded multiple picks for, mortgaged the future for, as we've seen. And then they let the guy who was picked 262 become the starting quarterback, or at least he earned it. They were open to him earning it. So let me just say that as an aside on Kyle Shanahan. He will always, I think, a quarterback be open to somebody else coming in and taking the job. But this guy ain't it. Sam Darnold, if Brock wasn't good enough, he could have been that guy. But Mac Jones is not Sam Darnold physically, and he's not Brock Purdy mentally. Hell, I don't think he's Darnold mentally. Like, what we've seen with Mac Jones's career is kind of weird, because usually a player with his skill set has no drama. You're just not good enough to like get into a fight over your injury with one team, and it's just weird. Brock, no weird. Darnold, no weird. Now, maybe Mac's situations have been weird, and that's why it got weird. Maybe. I mean, the New England, weird. They say what you want about Bill, all-time great, the greatest. It was like, I'm done with Brady. Okay. And made Brady feel that way. Like, Brady was like, I'm done with this. And then Jacksonville, whatever. But the reality is that Mac Jones, while not better than Brock Purdy, is much better than what the 49ers had last year. I know that's going to sound crazy to people. Brandon Allen and Josh Dobbs. Now, I was more an Allen guy. Many of you preferred Josh Dobbs. The reality is that the two of them combined for 13 years of NFL experience and 5 wins. Okay, 5 wins. 5 and 22 in 13 years combined of NFL experience. Some of those years involved no starts. Mac Jones, and I think we saw this last year as a pro Brandon Allen backup guy. I think we saw it last year when the Niners needed a backup quarterback in the Packer game. And they were so slow starting on offense. And it's understandable that their backup quarterbacks never start games. Mac Jones is 20-29 as a starting quarterback in 4 years. He's not good enough to be a starting quarterback. But at least he's got recent high-volume NFL reps, which if you're trying to win a game in a one-off situation, you just need a guy ready for the speed of the game, which is what, in theory, Mac Jones will be. And I think for all of his flaws, and there are plenty, because, again, not a starting quarterback in the NFL, will never be an established starting quarterback in the NFL. Hell, I like Sam Darnold. I think it's 50-50, maybe, that he is starting in the NFL 3 years from now. History tells us the odds are under 50-50. So, Mac Jones is a guy who has had some weird situations, has won games despite it, has probably at times shown what his potential is, but say what you want. Some of you do. Say what you want to say are negative things about Kyle Shanahan. Say what you want about Kyle Shanahan. Whatever Mac Jones's kind of ceiling is, Kyle Shanahan will help him find it. And my opinion is that ceiling is not better than Brock Purdy's. But I will say this. You go back to that quote from Michael Holley, he'll do things that drive you crazy. I think on another team with another coach with less talent and not a good offensive, like Mac Jones had some, especially in New England, some weird offensive coordinator situations. That is just a situation ripe for a quarterback to do things that'll drive you crazy. In other words, like try to make plays. I'll do it. There's some, gunslinger without the talent, like the arm strength of a gunslinger in Mac Jones. Purdy's got a little of his DNA. Anybody watching this, if you are an Iowa State fan, I know we get some Iowa State fans. Let me know, because the thing I hear from Iowa State fans historically, like Purdy does some spin move, throwback, and you go, "Oh my God, bro, no!" Iowa State fans, yeah, I recognize that play. So he's got some of that in him too. I mean, I think we've seen it. Like he's got some. I want to make a play. Gunslinger is such a cliche, but gunslinger in him that on another team you might do too much of. Some of that's appropriate in the right spots, and I think that's where you kind of that's where experience really matters for a guy. Like sometimes it's perfect. Do you do it at the right time if you're Purdy? I think a lot of players come into the league and do it too much. And what's great about Brock, so often he's really fundamental, disciplined, disciplined mentally. And maybe Mac isn't. Mac Jones's college experience was, I got great players everywhere, YOLO. And then you come in, there's a lot of guys. You come to the NFL and that's not your experience. So I think in the end, a quarterback that pushes Brock Purdy, like he's not pushing Brock Purdy in the sense that Brock's job is in jeopardy. If he were good enough to do it, so I'm making 2 points here. One, if he were good enough to do it, Shanahan would allow it because that's how Brock Purdy got here. But two, I don't think he is. And yet, I think he's an upgrade. Now, would he be any better in the snow at Green Bay than Brandon Allen was last year? I don't know. Not an ideal situation for any quarterback. Backup quarterback. Tough. Just tough. Jordan Love wasn't great that day. Niners got themselves in a hole. But part of it was their offense just looked disheveled to start that game. So there's no guarantee that Mac Jones wins you that game. There's certainly no guarantee that Josh Dobbs wins you that game. There is an argument for, well, actually the ideal backup quarterback is kind of an unpredictable runaround guy because for a game, that can help you. But we know what Kyle, last year he told us what he prefers in his backup. He had the more unpredictable make plays guy in Josh Dobbs, and he had that just do what I tell you guy in Brandon Allen, and he goes with the do what I tell you guy. So if he tells Mac Jones what to do, can Mac Jones be a better player than he's been? Maybe. Probably marginally at least. I think it's safe to say. But I also think that his recent experience and his ceiling for a day, it's higher than the last two guys, and it's probably most likely for a day to feel like Brock Purdy. You can you can duplicate it once or twice. The thing that's hard to duplicate that Purdy does is to be as consistently disciplined. You know what I like to say? The most invisible superpower is invisibility, and the second most invisible superpower is consistency. And Brock Purdy has shown an incredible amount of consistency. When your game relies on you to make good decisions and accurate throws in traffic and blah, 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 like consistency is where backup quarterbacks show themselves to be backup quarterbacks. For a given game, a given throw, like if we went and watched Cooper Rush's 5 best throws, they might look just like Dak Prescott's 5 best throws. I think you see that baseball's a great sport for this. Great sport for this. But over time, what do? Oh, congrats. You hit a home run off the best pitcher in baseball. That's awesome. That's better than most. But what's your average when you face the best pitchers in baseball every day versus when you're a platoon player? Overexposure was a word I learned and then used when I was covering the A's in the, like 2012, 2013, 2014. They did then what a lot of teams do now, which is platoon. And I think it happens a lot with backup quarterbacks. The preseason's so funny too. You're like, oh, look at that one throw. Anybody's one throw can match up with anybody else's one throw. Like Zach Wilson probably has a throw that would be in the top 10 of Aaron Rodgers' throws. As crazy as that sounds, like he does. I can think of one off the top of my head. There was one he was rolling left, and I mean, there might have been a penalty on it, but it was one of the greatest throws in NFL history. Well, congrats. Doing something once is not the test, and that's where Brock blows Mac Jones out of the water. But history tells us sometimes you need somebody to just do it once. And last year, the Niners needed it, and they didn't get it out of Brandon Allen. And I think this year, one of my overarching kind of thoughts, even before we really know what this roster is going to look like, is one of my overarching thoughts this year is just they are going to be in a bunch of tight wire games again, just like they were last year. And they lost a lot of them last year. And I think it's going to be, I don't know what the results are going to be, but I think they look at this year like, hey, we could go win 10, 11 games and go to the playoffs, even not knowing yet what our roster is going to look like just with this schedule. And maybe it's true. I mean, it might take 3 teams from the division to make the playoffs to make that true, but that could happen too.